enter light. Scroll in hand, 7 seals. Every word cuts and heals.
All right, we'll be up in about 30 seconds-ish.
Cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, hit that like, share the show.
Kingdoms come, peace unstitched by a single roar. I hear thunder at my door. Wars and rumors of wars, spoken like a curse in the dark. Every headline, every scar is another cracked heart in the ark. Wars and rumors of wars. Hey, echo from the prophets and seers. When the Lamb breaks the seal, all the old world shakes with our fears.
All right. That's right. That coughing you hear in the background is our dear friend Cliff Schechter, who joins us this morning. Even though he's I won't say he's under the weather. I'm just saying the weather is above him sometimes. You know, that's how I look at
Sometimes
it.
the weather climbs above me.
Yes, it does.
You know,
and
like a shooter running to the second floor because
no one closed it.
no one decided to check them. And
Even
maybe
though
it's-
the guy took a week and a half long train ride and had a written
Yeah, I know.
manifesto,
he
and
really wanted to see the whole country. I mean,
You know
how
what?
Can you begrudge the guy wanting to really see the sights? You go to
I
Mount Rushmore?
cannot. I cannot. I will say that yeah. One last time before he doesn't really do anything.
Right.
I mean, you and I clearly don't know all the behind the scenes and all of the reasons why the information the president has that we don't have. But I am it would seem curious to me that this guy you know goes to a school, I don't know, largely funded these days by grants from Peter Thiel, and they bug out JD Vance in an eighth of a second, but they run Trump out of there after just standing in front of him for a bit, waiting for him to stand up and say his fight, fight, fight cue, I suppose.
I like
But
that you're bringing up the angle that most people are like, either it was planned by Trump or they're like, or it was real. And all these people are ignoring the potential angle that, gee, JD Vance, Vivek Ramaswamy, the broligarch fascists might have been
Right, well,
behind it. And maybe
that's
get
where I
Trump out
went.
of the way, and you have
Yeah.
good old donut ordering JD Vance there.
Right. Now, I will say that I think there's a few things that stand out to us on a factual level. One is a master's degree in computer science or engineering will not make you a master's status like a strategist or tactician, because
No.
if your ultimate plan is to uh, kill someone with a shotgun from maybe 100 yards away from the back of a place because you know you'll never make it to the thing, and your hangouts like but
And
then
there's
you're
15 billion people in the way, and there's chairs, and there's this, and there's that.
yeah,
Like,
right, and
not
you're
getting
gonna
yeah.
and after all that planning, your train ride so you don't have to check your guns in the airport, I guess. Your last ditch plan is to sprint through Secret Service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
There's a
the
whole lot of
shotgun,
dumb
I
going
mean,
on.
I mean, I'm sure nobody would have seen that when he was getting on the plane. So
Right.
that seems rational. And also, that I mean, look, unless he was Jason Bourne,
Right.
he's not getting a good shot from as you pointed out, the back of the room. With if people are screaming, if somebody busts in with a gun, I mean, I feel sorry for a lot of those people, but
Yes.
they're going to stand up and freak out, and they're going to be in the way.
Right.
There's a whole lot, as there always is with Trump, with everything he does that doesn't make sense unless you
Mhm.
can put all the pieces together in the
Right.
puzzle.
And
And
yes. And the other thing is
yeah.
I titled this show with you this morning, The Boy Who Cried Fake News. Because ultimately, regardless of the reality of this or just normal screw ups or, and kudos to that Secret Service agent who took a bullet in the belly, luckily wearing a vest, but if you look at the
Risked his
video,
life. I mean, he did what
yes,
his job was
right.
for this piece
Can,
of excrement, if we're going to
exactly.
be honest.
Yeah. And continued like to do his job after being shot, and which is like being hit with a sledgehammer in the stomach. Everybody doing their thing, all good people downstream from whatever happened. But I thought the biggest part of it was online immediately everywhere was there was hashtag
Ballroom.
staged. Yeah, but hashtag staged, hashtag false, there was a false flag element of it. There were already people posting pictures of the shooter in an IDF shirt. I don't know if you saw that
Right.
one floating
I
around.
did. I did. I mean, that's the thing, I
No idea if
think
it's AI, by the way, or not. Like, that's the
no,
funny
I mean,
part, but
yeah, I was just on Stephanie's show and was talking, about the same thing, and I think that in the way that it happens in, whatever you want to, you choose your word, fascist regimes, dictators, authoritarians, kleptocracies, whatever. Um, we really are at a point now where we can't always discern the truth. The truth has been stolen from us
mhm,
by people that make things up all the time, lie like they breathe, create fake propaganda videos, you know, lie to your face and gaslight you about stuff that you actually can see on video is not true, or
mhm,
facts, tell you the economy is great when you literally can look at numbers.
right.
So, I mean, there's no, it's impossible to know what the truth is. There's a lot of things that don't add up, like there were a lot of things that didn't add up in Butler, Pennsylvania,
Right.
but do I know 100% what the truth is? I don't, because it's, again, like they're lying in all different directions about this.
Well, and
So,
the
and we're
curious
never going to
part
get a
about
real
him,
investigation.
interestingly enough, about the Thomas Crooks thing is that has been one of the bubbling up MAGA, like, this has bothered me the whole time. Like right now, okay, because last year, mid-July, we had the memo, which I would say was the beginning of the end for MAGA when the Pam Bondi thing came out. And you can trace again his poll numbers taking a dive. And every time he gets a little boost from some, Maria Bartiromo telling everybody the economy's actually turning around when it clearly is not, and Besson coming out with one of those dudes with a push broom behind an elephant in a parade, just trying to polish this crap. That he gets these little boosts, and he manages to wreck it with, a terrible decision or an absolutely
Or he said
tone
something
deaf,
just inane,
not
or
yeah,
yeah,
and it's like he manages to, it's like a volleyball team, like somebody gets a tip up right before it hits the dirt, and it just ricochets off the guard's knee, just being, doesn't,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
it's a worthless tip up, and it just keep cascading down, so much
Well, that's
so
been it. I mean, he
that,
compound again, like he will always make things much worse for himself because of who he is.
yeah,
You know,
never.
there are things he could let go and move to the next thing, but he compounds it because he has to keep refighting. I mean, the way he couldn't let the 2020 crap go. That's not strategic at this point. His people, if they're going to believe that the his horse shit about the
Yeah.
2020 election being stolen, he's got all of the people that are going to believe that already. The
Mhm.
fact that he's still so obsessed with it because he can't admit he's wrong about anything, he can't admit he lost anything, like he can't handle it. So he'll keep fighting these things out, even when it's completely not in his interest to do so. But
Yes, just old
he's
man
too
wrestles
stupid
with
to know that.
reality. But
Yeah.
the point wanted to make about the maggot kind of base fracturing away, which again
Yep.
has increased with every day, and you can see where the fractures are now not just new stuff. That, by the way, you and I obviously for years have been going. Of course, he's a liar. Of course, he's not going to do this. Of course, he's definitely going to do the
Right.
opposite of what he says. Like, all of them going, I can't believe it. Like, okay, well,
I can't
we'll
believe
see.
he would put up something with Jesus in it, and he's put up like 5 different religious themed things that were
Right.
sacrilege before, if you believe in this kind of stuff. So,
Hmm.
but this is, if you
Even
believed
if
in
you
anything
don't, you can
Jesus
recognize it
said,
as such.
right, right.
Right.
That's, I mean, yeah, I mean,
But the maggots,
it's just,
I
yeah. Go
I
ahead.
do this one thing I want to get your comment on this is that there have obviously been things along the way that have been big tip offs, the binders, and then that note, and then attacking Iran, and then re-attacking Iran, and the no new regime change, calling it that, right? All those things, calling it,
Yeah.
and all the maggots legit freaking out about those things when they came out. But there were a lot of things they kind of shelved, they put in the back drawer that definitely bothered them, but they just
Yes.
let it slide,
The
or like,
smaller things that kept adding up, they
and
kept putting them
now,
aside.
yes,
Yeah.
and now they're like, what's always bothered me about Butler? You know, it's always bothered. Like that's the part
About the
that
Epstein thing, about that's why the
yes,
floodgates have opened now, right? Like,
right.
if you saw recent, I mean, there's again, take polling for what it's worth, but I believe whenever it's reputable folks doing it, and there's numerous polls out there,
Hmm.
I at least believe it's somewhere in the range of right. And at this point, this poll had what 55% of the country, including 21% of Republicans, supporting impeaching him. Think about
Right.
here, listen to that again. A majority of the country, 55% supporting impeaching him, and 21% of those Republicans. But even more so, that's 79% of Republicans who wouldn't. But he's at a 70% approval rating now, which means he has lost almost a
Yes.
third of
Yeah.
his own party because they're the only people he had left to lose. He already was at 27% with independents. On the show I did last week, I had, if you know Joe Trippi, I had him on. He's been doing this
Yeah.
stuff since Carter in '79. He said, "I've never seen that number among independents for any major presidential nominee or president. Nixon at the end of Watergate was 7 or 8 points higher. Trump at the lowest point in Iraq was 8 or 9 points higher. Like nobody's even come close to how low he is with independents ever.
Yeah.
Like he just so he
And
has to
that's
lose Republicans now because there's nobody else left to lose.
right. And this is the turning point for the midterms that they were, raising the, the flag about and setting off alarm bells everywhere was not that 100% of MAGA supports him because anybody who doesn't support him is no longer MAGA. It's like a self-reinforcing
Right.
100%, like it and anybody can see that from a statistical standpoint. It's just beyond absurd. When the more he brings it up, you're like, yes, if 100% of Boy Scouts support the Boy Scouts. If you stop being in the Boy Scouts, you no longer support the Boy Scouts. Like that's the kind of ridiculous, obvious 100% nonsense. Self-calculating. You're not a real Branch Davidian. You're
Right.
not a real, FLDS inbred sister wives person. If you break out
But
and go to the FBI.
but I mean, just it looks again not exactly the same in a number of ways, but and Democrats have to get the right people in front, galvanizing our folks who are saying the right things, and we have some of them. The more I see Ted Lieu out there, I'm like, keep putting him out there.
Yeah.
Um, but it looks so much like the situation in Hungary. It really does,
Yeah.
where people
That's
were
right.
turning against Fidesz, or however you pronounce it, against
Mhm.
Orban and his corruption, and
Right.
there was a pedophilia scandal that Orban covered up because it was a high-ranking official in their party and pardoned the guy. So you had that element there. The economy was absolute crap. So younger generations who couldn't find any jobs were pissed as hell. Older folks not getting their benefits anymore, pissed as hell. Rural areas, farms dead, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it looked so much like what's happened here, and it'd been this building wave. It's like what you said with MAGA, where they put stuff to the side, they put stuff to the side. I think a lot of people there did, and finally, it's like this wave is building up against like a dam or something. It just busts through,
Yeah.
and 70% they end up winning in the parliament. I mean, just they won. I don't remember what the figure was, but a significant portion
Yeah.
of Fidesz people voted for Magyar, and I think a significant number of Republicans are going to do the same here for Democrats. So if we can get somebody speaking to this stuff the way he was, and not holding back, and not with half measures, but fully calling Trump what he is, saying
Yeah.
he's either a pedophile or a pedophile protector, one or the other.
Well, he
Like
pushed
the
he
better
pushed back
case,
very definitively. I don't know if he very
yeah, I
strongly.
saw that.
I talked to
Yeah.
his people, and he very strongly pushed back against the idea that he was a pedophile, and so
I
I would
didn't I
believe
didn't
him.
like the kids. I only
Yeah.
like the adults. I mean, look, the thing is that if the best you can do is be considered a pedophile protector, I wish you luck.
Right.
Who's destroyed the economy, who
Right.
started an unbelievably stupid war that now is falling into the low 20s in terms of its approval rating.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just, and again, so his own base, some of them had maybe a few principles. I have a hard time granting Megyn Kelly and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson and these jokers any principles, but maybe they had a few that he finally stepped past. I think most of it's probably personal, but it doesn't really matter in the end. What matters is they speak to large audiences
Yes.
on the right. You live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Hmm.
And you lived by having the right wing influencers and right wing insiders pick him over Jeb Bush and all those other people. And now they've all, I mean, not all, but now many of them have turned on him
That's
and they
right.
have huge audiences.
Yeah.
So,
Well, look, it's a competition between their huge audiences and his huge ass. I don't know what is going on in this. What is that
oh my
situation?
God.
What is
Is that
that?
singularly
That is
his ass?
from that is from the 60 Minutes interview with
So
Norah
that's not
O'Donnell.
three asses
No,
lined up side by
that is
side.
one ass. That's a big ass. That is, I don't know what
That
is
is a
that.
big.
That is a fresh diaper, or he after he fell on stage, he insisted on Kevlar underwear because what if they shoot me in the ass while I'm crawling across the
While I'm
floor?
crapping myself. Has
While
anybody like taken a look to make sure he doesn't have like elephantiasis or something like that?
of the ass cheek? Yeah.
Yeah, just of the ass. Just of the
Like
ass.
what in the ever loving hell? I mean, seriously.
Maybe it's
That's
a thing that, like, as his poll numbers go down, his ass grows. Like, in his ass is
It
inverse to
yeah,
his poll numbers.
inverse proportions to his poll numbers, and you can tell. That,
That's my new formula that I'm gonna
that's
work
right.
that out like
What's that?
like I'm
Right.
in, like, Goodwill Hunting up on the blackboard, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna work all that crap out, and I will get you your formula.
You're gonna need someone from Jet Propulsion Labs to work out the math on that one because that's really that's rough. But I like, again, never it's so big and weird that you miss the point that he's leaning forward like he's about to fall out of his
Well,
chair.
that's the other thing, right? When he
His
sits and when he stands, like,
His
he
ass is so
what is
big,
that?
like the diaper is so big, it takes your eyes off his cankles. Which, by the way, I would like to point out, he is also strategic. You know how he always sits with his hand over his other hand in all videos
Yeah,
now, including the ones
the
that
one
they are putting
the one
out.
hand that, like, looks like the Terminator hand with all the crap missing.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
By the way, I think I'm the only person. I hope Midas Touch picks it up. I hope bigger crowds would pick it up. But those little like videos he's making from the Oval where he speaks into the teleprompter, the one where he did the Bible verse and the one where he did the homeowner, home prices are going to come down, are either 100% AI or are patched together with AI or both. Like they are
I
just.
mean,
I've shown
I haven't
everywhere.
seen them. Can
Yes.
you play
Okay.
one of them during the like, are they short enough that you could play one?
Yeah, I'll show you one of the moments from that, but I want to show you also that you know how he covers his hands like that, and he's becoming kind of like his a super villain where he's like, "Meow," and it's
It's Mr. Burns.
that's right. His
Excellent.
yes. The other thing he does is he walks in already sitting down. Like they are now not showing him get up out of a chair or get down into a
He
chair.
walks in already sitting down. Do they attach a chair to his ass while he
Yeah, they
walks?
roll.
So
Well,
they
I
he
think they
just
don't bring
walks
the
with
press
the chair, like,
right.
gorilla glued to his ass, and then he
I
can just sorta,
Yeah, I'm fairly certain they just wheelchair him in and dump him into the thing, and he walks as little as possible because he's
you know,
the king,
or
like a Chinese emperor, where they would roll them in a wheelchair because walking was beneath them. That might even be the thing.
Or
But
if
let
you
me,
know the story, and you may, as a Kentuckian from, not that far away from Cincinnati, that
yeah,
infamously William Howard Taft was over 300 pounds and got stuck in his bathtub
right,
in the White House. They had to extract him. I don't know how, and I don't really know that I want to know how, but this
some
awesome
grease.
the oldest bar, yeah, there's a lot. The oldest bar in Cincinnati, Arnold's, has the tub. I don't know how they got it, but they've got it there. And so you can,
It
like, be sitting there having a drink. Next time you're here, dude,
ah
I know you don't drink, but you have a drink of a Coke if you want, or
oh yeah,
whatever
I'll
you
go
drink.
sit in the
You
tub.
just
That'll be
sit in the
awesome.
damn tub. We did it with,
Right.
like, us and 2 friends, my wife and I, like, 4 of us fit in this damn thing.
Oh my god.
I mean,
So do
yeah.
you
Go ahead,
notice?
sorry.
Do you notice the
Well,
strategic
I want actually,
aspect?
hold on. I wanted to make a
Yeah.
point, which is
Yeah.
maybe his ass gets stuck in the chair, and he can't get it out, so he has to
Right.
walk around with, like, the chair attached. That's what I was getting at.
That's
Sorry,
right.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
that it's suction to him also is a possibility. You'll notice his strategic his cankle hiding plan, which is put your ankles back behind the
Next to the
leg of the chair. So and you got your black socks on, and no one will notice. Like this is compensatory. This is just like the hand covering.
and
This
at
is
some point, dude, his cankles are gonna get so big he's gonna need like Greek columns attached to the
That's right.
chair
Yeah. That's what the
to block
ballroom is
them.
about. We're putting in fine Corinthian columns, the most beautiful in the world, big enough to hide my cankles. Um,
That's the other thing about the ballroom is like if that's the only place that can keep him safe, is it gonna be like, you see these houses on wheels that travel around?
yes.
Is he just gonna go around in like the traveling ballroom because
Yeah.
that's the only safe place for him to be? Like from
Well,
now on, the
yes.
only
And thank you very much. I stumbled on a solution for school shootings. We've
make
solved
them
this
all
now.
ballrooms.
Give every kid their own ballroom, and that the teachers and everybody can come to them just for their class, because ballrooms are like if we didn't already name
They're
it
like,
the Epstein ballroom, it would be Trump's safe space.
yeah.
Uh,
It's
um,
up there with when Ted Cruz said after Uvalde that we needed door control, because I don't know if you remember that, because the doors were not the doors were not able to repel bullets and weren't closed and locked well enough. So doors would solve things. Which when there are shootings outdoors at parades, locking those doors would definitely accomplish a lot.
right.
Um, and but I mean, this is sort of the ballroom thing, and that you noticed every one of them were like drones repeating the ballroom thing afterwards. Like, if we had a ballroom, this wouldn't have
Right.
happened. I mean, it was
Yeah.
like Stepford wife weirdo shit, and they
Yeah.
all these influencer accounts on the right, like at the same time, which again makes the whole thing more suspicious because if it wasn't planned, then somebody there had to be smart enough to come up with, hey, let's use this for to justify the ballroom that quickly and get it out to all of their influencers within minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know how long. I have a hard time believing it.
Well,
That that
it was in his
yeah.
remarks. It was in his remarks and their remarks almost immediately.
Yes.
Right. It was that was the key part, was that basically they just send out the like, hey guys, make sure you hit pro ballroom. This He's going to touch on it, and it'll look like you're just mentioning it because he does, but don't
But
tweet
they're
until
so
he says
dumb,
it.
you couldn't
That,
change the sentence at all, so it
right.
said the exact same thing.
That's right. That's right. And so
You
let me
have to be
see
able to
if
conjugate verbs and stuff.
yeah. So Trump does this thing about, let me see, I'm gonna find it in here. Where is it? I'll bring up one of these, but it was the Trump on home ownership, I think was the first one. Um yeah, here it is. So this is,
Today,
let me show you this. So um he does this video right here. And let's see if I can, I guess not. Okay, hold on.
I'm
So
signing two historic executive orders continuing my
now I want you, there's a bunch of things I've already pointed out. This thing, I went through the whole video on there. But one of the things you can watch for in these situations is, look how
Al,
big
were
is,
you were
I'll
you
send you this.
hopefully like under the influence of something, or I mean, just was there anything that made that less painful than it sounds like it was?
The fact that it wasn't really him took kind of the edge off. That I was really looking at it from a scientific standpoint, like I was just judging like the latest Sea Dance avatar software from China that they've been using to make these things. And I'm not
Because I
kidding.
would just have a glass of tequila or something to ease the pain.
Sure.
You don't do that. You have to like sort of dig a knife into your bicep or
Yeah.
just anything to feel less painful.
Yeah. So there's a couple of points in here where, first of all, you'll notice his wrist right here, which I point out several times, is his sleeve is gigantic compared to his wrist. And several times the wrist moves, but the sleeve does not. So it's like
Right.
it's like it gels out or his arm comes out. That's a very AI thing that happens. Like the arms, it sees almost the coat, his jacket and sleeves as furniture, and so when your hand moves, it's just like it moving behind a chair or something.
Yep.
And that happens several times. The other thing is they fix a bunch of words where he patches them.
help reduce rates even more and make it much easier to build new homes in America. The first executive order is about bringing more community banks back into the mortgage business.
Okay, so one of the things that triggered me and when I was watching this was like, He's speaking too smoothly. He's speaking too fast. He's reading very
Right.
well, and it's just too fast compared to the one he just put out the day before and the day after. They just don't line up, right? So, he,
2 decades ago, over 5,000 community banks were offering mortgages. Today, that number has been slashed by more than 50%.
oh, and so see this little pen right here? There's a pen on the desk.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can roll back to when it's facing the other direction. It just decides on its own at one point
All these
to roll over
an executive
because
order
what they did was they take multiple takes of these
dollars
things.
since I
There it is. Okay, so the pen is very small and it's black, so that's why I think they missed
took
it.
office. A
Watch,
very
watch that. Right there. You'll see. Hold on. Play, you stupid thing. Yeah, they're taking it
the
down as I
typical
pointed
new
out.
mortgage is
Watch
down
right
almost
here.
$5,000 since I took office. A very
The pen just rolls over. He taps like this and the pen rolls over. Okay, the reason the pen rolls over is because they shot 3 or 4 of these things to try and get him
Yeah.
through it. And then they AI'd it together from some of the takes. So he's wearing the right thing. But he's really just coming in, blasting these fucking things out. And the auto pen president is having them make AI addresses to the nation. Period. End of story. They are, and by the way, I would argue this is a thing that they're doing to protect them against what's coming, which is his incapacity at being able to speak when they need him to at
That's
any
a
given
great
point.
point. I
Address
mean,
it like,
it's almost like you have to get him to say enough things
yeah,
that you can use and put together before the election, because again, at any point he could just fall over
that's
and
right.
you know, it's it's like the movie Dave, and there's nobody that
Yes,
that you're gonna find that looks that bad like he
that
does.
isn't
To
that isn't doing it for comedy, right?
exactly,
The only
it's to
people they
get
can
somebody to do
find.
it for comedy. Yeah, that
No, no,
would be
no, no.
awesome.
You're really good. Just stop making fun of him. Stop.
Yeah,
What are you
yeah.
talking? Nobody can tell. The comedy
Nobody
version
knows
of him
it's
is
you,
just as
but
ridiculous.
you have to stop talking about Epstein and Melania, okay? You gotta
Right.
stop doing that. So I mean, yeah, that's I mean, and I hadn't even given that much thought. That is a fantastic point because
Yeah.
they'll try to AI their way through the midterms if they have to. If he's because again, for a while now, I've been
Yeah.
pretty sure. And I'm not a doctor, but I think somebody that has common sense and
Right.
sees all the things wrong with him and knows that he has heart disease, all these things he's hiding. That if he makes it through the first of the year, I'll be
Mhm.
somewhat surprised.
Yes, agreed. And again, they will do what they have to make it look like he's just fine. He just won't be appearing in public because we're at war or something. He's just so busy.
Dude,
He's working
what
nonstop.
it's gonna be? It's gonna be like, remember, during there's that period of time in the early '80s where like, they kept being a new Soviet leader and there was Andropov and he like
Yes.
disappeared for a year and a half. And they're just like, Andropov alive. He's doing fine.
Hmm.
And they just would Andropov says, eat your borscht,
Yeah. Right.
and
It
stuff like that. But you
isn't
never
it?
see him. And then we found out he'd been dead for like a year.
Yeah. Well, that
It's
was
gonna be, go ahead.
what the Trump team learned from this was what a great idea. Like
Exactly.
it's not that they
And we
went
have
that
AI
never
now.
worked. Right.
Yeah. Or they could just they could go consult with I can't remember the other dude's name, but Andrew McCarthy, and try to pull a weekend at Bernie's kind of thing.
Right.
Where maybe they just have him water skiing, clanking in the boats, up around Mar-a-Lago. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that happening.
It's ChatGPT at Bernie's, basically, at this point. Like the image
Exactly.
gens on
Put on
this.
his sunglasses,
Yeah.
just have him crashing into crap.
I think
I
everybody
don't
here is doing a fantastic job. Like,
know.
no, you don't understand. We could just make one of him. And look, I guarantee Trump, who does not believe that there is any success in winning on merits. He thinks if you can cheat your way through it, it shows you're even more clever because you won and you beat the system doing it. So
Yeah.
being in the mob, like he was impressed by how the mob, can win while being, criminals and
Right.
and still looking cool in their suits. Like they're not street criminals, they're not busting windows, even though they employ a bunch of people who bust windows and they're just one step up
And
from
wear
them.
very
So
shiny,
morally,
not so attractive suits, but all
this is
right,
true.
whatever.
Right. So he thinks that if he can run, if everybody who crimes is below him and he can jettison the crime if it gets attached to him like the mob does, that's more impressive than being smart and actually effective, right?
Yeah,
You
and I'm
know,
gonna say I think part of that is the insecurity that comes with the knowledge that he sucks at everything.
yeah.
That he really, I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, it's fun to say that, but that he is stupid, he's lazy, he doesn't really have any particular talents at anything that I've ever heard, and whatever. So, when you always are kind of mediocre and aren't very good at stuff, then you're gonna like justify to yourself, who wants to win the regular way?
Mhm.
Winning by cheating, that's the way to go. And
That's right.
that, I mean, there's things as stupid as golf where he kicks the ball forward. I mean, he's pathetic. Like that's he has to win and he has to cheat to win at anything.
Right. So a couple of things. I want to get to this as well, and I appreciate you being around. I know you're in need of rest and relaxation and the like. And
We'll be
luckily,
okay. We'll power through.
excellent. There, at least there's nothing to else to talk about besides the fact that everybody eh, whatever's left of MAGA is being haunted right now by the idea that they think not only was this staged, but Butler was staged, or this Secret Service is. If they're not online right now saying they are trying to kill him, which is the they are, which again, if they are trying to kill him, then you have nothing to fear because apparently they can't hit the broadside of a fucking barn with they're sending the most incompetent
Or come up with
people.
a plan that, maybe would not have him in a place that has that many secret service where there are going to be so many people who are from the government and the elite press that they're going to theoretically try to protect.
Right.
I mean, there are, I mean, that time when that guy they arrested, that other one who they said was planning to try to assassinate him, whether you
Yeah.
believe that or not, he was actually relatively exposed on a golf course. I mean,
Right.
that was a time somebody could have taken a shot at him because he's a moron.
Mhm.
If you're planning this stuff out, this doesn't seem to be the ideal place to try to pull this off. I would
Right.
think escaping, unless you want to die doing it, escaping would be rather hard. Um, I don't understand why. So who knows? I guess we'll see. But as you said, if they do want to off him, they're not really very good at it.
They're not trying very
Um,
hard. They're not bringing their
they're
A
either not
game.
trying
Right.
hard or really they're not really. This isn't their line of work. They need to
My
find something else to do.
my girlfriend Summer, who is because of her current unpleasantness, is having to deal with a rotating diet and odd tastes from flavor. Like it changes the flavor of foods when you're going through chemo. Everything tastes slightly metallic and all that kind of stuff. So you start craving things that compensate for that and all that. Brought up a
Yeah,
very important point, which was that if you were gonna kill him, why wouldn't you poison him? If you're that smart, like running in there and shooting a gun off, you're never going to be able to do it. But I brought up the point when she said, "Why didn't somebody do that?" I'm like, if somebody literally, I truly believe this. If somebody walked up in a suit carrying a McDonald's bag and went, "This is for the boss. He wants this. He doesn't want to eat the food here." That Secret Service and everyone else would carry it by hand and make sure it gets to him, and
of
he would
course.
fucking eat it. So
I
like,
absolutely believe that too. That they would ignore protocol and everything else and just be like, if we don't give the old man the Big Mac, he's gonna
he's gonna
lose it.
pitch a fucking fit, right? So make
Mhm.
sure it gets to him, and it would go through everybody. Susie Wiles would drop it on it like on a silver platter and bring it to him.
She might just do it for freedom.
Right, that's right, just to be shed of this and go back to working for Cutter, which is her other big client. Um,
Right. Along
but
with Pam Bondi.
that's right. Yeah, it's almost like it's like a
One big
Florida thing.
it's like a big happy family of people that like to work for corrupt and murderous dictators.
It's
It's very
weird. It's
nice.
all yeah, right. After they've used up all the money that they bled out of the Cuban exiles, once they've run dry and become normal Americans and have to struggle like the rest of us, what's the next group of people you can bleed dry until you end up having a bunch of cuttery, people who used to be royal over there and are just broke people in West Palm Beach,
Yeah.
but fake rich people like Schitt's Creek or the Riches, right? Um,
Yeah. If you're the richest in Schitt's Creek,
yeah.
I don't know
Oops.
that
Yeah.
yeah.
So the other obvious aspect of this is that the Iran war was to distract from the Epstein files. The Epstein files were becoming their only thing that could distract from how badly the Iran war is going. And now
Yeah.
we
The
are,
economy fits in there somewhere, distracting
yeah,
from that. I
that's
mean,
right. So
it comes down to like eventually, if you really fuck everything up, it's hard to distract. You know, you're almost like playing a distraction Ponzi scheme. You know, each thing has to keep
such a great
distracting from the next
description.
till you
Cliff
get to the
Schechter
end.
for
And
the roundhouse on that one.
thank
Yeah,
you,
a distraction Ponzi scheme. That is exactly what they are running out of the White House. Well done, my friend.
thank you. I
Um,
appreciate it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's your next Blue Amp post. That's your
It
next,
has to
yeah,
be my next post,
an
I think, or
article.
I've got to write a
Yeah.
book or something.
Oh
Yeah,
my God. Yeah. That's because that really is like, how can once you can only use disasters to distract because you have no successes,
right.
e- even like the closing down of the border, the maggots don't even appreciate that he shut down the border, which he didn't, by the way. Like they passed basically the comprehensive bill that was going to go through. All those parts of it are what paid for the
What
extra
about
people
that,
down there.
like, that part of, like, 3 feet of fence that they have up there? Doesn't that
Right.
stop people? Like,
Right.
doesn't somebody say, "We gotta go get a shitload of dimes," you know, kinda
Right.
thing?
That's right. Yeah, from Blazing Saddles, right? And not only that, but it closes down the border 100%. Zero people come through, but the fentanyl, that never goes down in price, and never there's no loss of availability of fentanyl in the country, even though you've 100% shut down the border. So that was bullshit. Apparently, that fentanyl was
Well,
coming
it's
across the
also
border.
really helpful when you pardon the former president or whoever from Honduras, who is a
Right.
huge, like,
Drug.
drug dealer. You
Right.
claim you care about drugs. You wanna stop drugs so you can tell people you've done that, except this guy's got millions of dollars to give you. Which way are you
Right.
gonna go? I don't
And he's
know.
got
What
a
do you do there?
and he's helping your son ruin crypto forever by,
Right.
them starting up something. Yeah. Um in the distraction Ponzi scheme, TM Cliff Schechter and Blue Amp, please subscribe on the Substack. Um, the other issue that I think he hoped would be his macho, like, if you're not going to give me the Nobel Peace Prize, then you're going to have to come up with the Nobel War Prize, because me and Pete are going to, lay pipe all over the Middle East and show everybody, how if you use a microscope, our balls are huge, right? And
Yeah.
so last year they start this thing, maggots. It's almost like a test to see if maggots will fall back in line after a new Middle Eastern war that very well will require regime change, because once this isn't a band-aid, you're ripping stitches out. And
Yeah. They
yeah,
don't
so
th these are complex concepts for them, and,
right.
remember, he knows more than the generals, so, again, there's nothing. I'm sure they have the kinds. I mean, when you think about the ridiculous stuff they actually do, like, I'm sure there are schemes there that you would just be like, "Somebody actually thought that shit up?"
Yeah, what they
Like,
say no to on the list of stuff that
right, like stuff that comes out of, like, Animaniacs and stuff like that, right? Like, are some of their schemes, and, like, they're all gonna fail because these people
right.
are incompetent morons at everything.
Well, and again, this is another one. This is, from Bloomberg, but like everybody's talking about this. We're basically pirates right now. We're seizing boats that break the blockade, and then
Didn't we say
taking.
China gave it to us? And China's like, "Fuck you, we didn't give it to you."
Yeah, right. And well, again, the thing with the shadow fleet is that part of the game that Iran and China and all these guys have been playing, while, by the way, under Trump's very nose, Xi Jinping, great friend of mine, right, has been, and Trump,
Yeah.
arguably, I would say, uh, we're going to find out that he was allowing them for a good long while to get Iranian oil, while and he's like, Bill,
Of
and
course, I'm sure they're paying him. I mean, again, the connections, that's what's always been so hilarious to me when
right,
they start going off on the Democratic Party in China and whatever, and you're like, dude, every single product you ever made, you made in China. Kushner right away sat down with wealthy families from Hong Kong to talk to offer
yeah,
bidding on visas for those that wanted to come in and live over here. There was that Chinese guy, the wealthy one with the yacht,
Joe
who
Wenguo, yeah,
who
the friend of
Bannon befriended. Like
the
the list goes on forever
fake,
of
I
their
will say,
connections.
fake Chinese dissident, for the record. China has a thing, so does Russia, which is they
Yeah,
will send over people who go, the CCP is terrible. It's the worst thing in the world. And they will align themselves with people in power,
it's a
and try.
disinformation game.
It's
Yeah,
exactly that. And then eventually, if they start criticizing the United States, they're like, well, this is somebody who criticized the CCP. So therefore, of the
they have
former
more
people.
credibility when they go
Right.
after the US. I mean, yeah, they're very smart at those games, and I'm just saying the three things I just gave you were off the top of my head. Oh yeah, didn't Ivanka get like 45 or whatever 300? I don't remember how many patents she got in
Yeah.
China to sell stuff. I mean, there's so many examples. I remember when what's his name was working for Trump Pompey during the was his name
Hmm.
Pompey? I can't even
Pompeo.
remember anymore.
Yeah.
Pompeo. See, I was
Yeah.
thinking of the Italian, fun Italian place.
Sure.
Well, not the goofball. When he was working for Trump, he was heavily invested in some Chinese tech company and didn't put it on his disclosures. I mean, it's endless.
Right.
The conflict of interest with China here. They pretend they hate China. They love China.
Right. In this, so fuel to that fire, if I may. New data shows that China came into the Iran war with over 3 times the strategic reserves of the United States. What they don't point out in a lot of these was it goes, new data shows how aggressively China added to its oil reserves ahead of the war in Iran. Well, how did they do that? I'll tell you how they do that. Donald Trump gave them a heads up.
Of
Donald
course.
Trump allowed them to buy a bunch of this oil and went, hey, we're going to screw with the Strait of Hormuz for a while if you want, and it's going to be bad for everybody else. But if you want me to do you a solid and you do me a solid later on, Trump Tower, Beijing, and whatnot, after the
Right.
presidency is over, I'll let you do this. And that's why they knew it was coming. They were tipped off ahead of time. And
I just thought of another one, man. Like this is probably just like the situation. Remember when our cattle ranchers couldn't sell any beef because we were getting our butts kicked,
oh
but we
yeah,
were helping Argentina sell their beef to China.
yeah,
Gee, I don't know. I'm sure that was in no way to
right.
bribe the Chinese and help them out. And I also just remembered that Trump had a bank account we found out about in China
That's
after
right.
he was got his butt kicked in 2020. If your show goes on long enough here, I'll find 50 different connections
Examples
to
of
prove how
their
full of shit they are.
Yeah, there. And by the way, I would point out that China's economy has been going bad for quite some time, but
Right.
specifically is heading into once we enter into the world of robotics and automation, where they're regularly available, everywhere. The idea of cheap labor going to a country specifically to replace labor costs in your own country becomes useless, and therefore China's entire business model for how they became the factory of the
Yep.
world falls
That's
apart.
been their whole big thing. I
The
mean,
right. And,
corruption pre-Trump. We're like, yeah, let's have permanent normal trade relations with a place that has no labor costs because they've got a slave labor force. That should
right.
really work out well. And,
Right,
and
and
I'm
it
I
go ahead.
a believer in free trade
Mhm.
when it's countries that have similar conditions to you, similar
Right.
regulations to you, similar laws, so that I think that benefits all countries. You can't have an
Mhm.
asymmetrical situation where one country has no labor costs and have that come out and work for you. It was always such a pile of
Right.
crap they sold.
Exactly. So they know this is coming. So their economy has been, they've got a demographics problem and they've got an economic problem that they just aren't going to be able to salvage. It's like if you were 10 years before the Japanese crash and you saw it coming, you're like
Yep.
they're building this, or the 2008 crash. If you were able to judge credit default swaps on their merit and went, whoa, they're everywhere now. This is going to be bad. Once this thread gets pulled, and it will get pulled, once that happens, it's devastation. And again, Japan had friends when they crashed. We were friends with them. So we helped them salvage
Yeah,
their
right.
economy. China has no friends in the world, none. So, and it has worked
Everybody
very
should go
hard to
back
make
and
them.
watch, like, all the cultural kinda stuff from back then,
Yeah.
about Japan, like Black Rain and, like, was
Yeah.
it Land of the Rising Sun and all
Gung
these
ho.
movies, whatever, all about how Japan, they were worked harder and they were smarter and they were gonna dominate us and this, that, the other thing, and then, of course, none of that turned out that way.
Poof.
So,
Right. That there's that one joke in Defending Your Life where he could have invested in like a Japanese watch company, and he didn't. He did cattle instead, and they all something their teeth fell out. but it was like it was like you know like if his investment would have been worth 1.4 billion dollars or something if it had done it right back then, but it kind of wouldn't if you look at it now. That's the funny part. Like after that movie came out, like actually it didn't work
If he'd
out quite
held
that well.
on to this,
Yeah,
it better have been a sort of,
pump and dump.
churn and burn scheme where he bought
Yes,
it and resold it, like the kind that where how Vivek Ramaswamy made his money,
that's right.
where he had his mommy sign off on the Alzheimer's thing and say, "This drug's really," he was a doctor, "This is
Hmm.
really gonna work, this, Alzheimer's drug," and all these people invested in it, and the thing crashed and didn't work at all, but that was okay because he got to walk away with their money.
Right.
So,
So the U.S. Energy Information Administration estimates that China ended 2025 with 1.4 billion barrels in reserve. That is
yeah.
a stockpile for one of two purposes. That's why, by the way, a lot of people thought they were going to attack Taiwan. I actually think that now, looking in retrospect, because I don't think they're going to attack Taiwan. I think that's a bluff that's constantly rolling, and it's one of those things like if you do it and all the
Yeah.
problems that come with it, you'll actually it's worse than saying one day I'm going to get those guys if you keep voting for me and putting me in here. That's the
No, I mean, it's populism. They can
yes.
keep inveighing against them in the same way Russia can against Ukraine and Israel versus the Arab world and in a few of the Arab countries where there are elections against Israel. And everybody always finds who do the regular people hate the most in my country, and
Hmm.
that's the thing. I'm sure that the propaganda about Taiwan is insane, and they probably at this point think that like they're baby eating devils, and so they say I'm going to protect you from Taiwan, and
Right.
it's much better to have them as an enemy in the end.
So, remember how they used to bag on Biden for drawing down the strategic reserves?
Mhm.
Well, guess what, kids? To keep gas prices low because of stuff that they made happen, right? That's the storyline. Which, by the way, it wasn't. It was about COVID, supply shock, and
Yes.
the
We're having
reality
trouble
there.
with the supply lines and all of that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so to drive down the prices of oil and gas. And by the way, the Saudis, in defense of Donald Trump and to protect him and to manipulate our elections, manipulated prices through OPEC plus to
Of
the point
course.
where they could not hold back any longer, and we were headed into an oil glut. The other reasoning behind
Right.
why we attack Iran and why now is to keep oil prices from collapsing, not going
Right.
down where they're like, oh my God, it's $40 a barrel. We're in the money, which is what Trump thought would happen, but $20 a barrel, where there's just no call for it anymore. And again, the electrification of commuter cars is the canary in the coal mine that will is going to be the end of
Right.
oil in our
I've got
lifetime.
my hybrid car, I love it, enough I
Yep.
mean, no, and you're exactly right about that, and people have given, Bibi the credit he deserves for being evil
Yes.
and, pitching Trump to attack Iran, but people seem to not remember MBS was doing the same thing. Bibi may have been whispering in one ear, but MBS from Saudi Arabia is whispering in the other ear, to attack Iran. They were pitching him on that forever too. Difference is they both have been doing that. Saudi Arabia and Israel have wanted everybody to attack Iran for about 40 years now, but no
Hmm.
other president was stupid enough to do it. But they
Right.
finally got their guy.
Yeah, it's like they were walking around with a bullseye, like, please put this on your back. Please do this
Right.
for us. We would really like to kill these guys and destabilize their thing and kill their leaders and have our guys
Kill
take
their
over.
maybe
But
take some of their oil, not
but
have to
we're really
compete with
close
them anymore.
by. Yeah. So and I'm just not that kind of guy. So do you mind? You go, you do that, and I'll be over here near the buffet in
I'm sure
Dubai.
they're having a big celebration. Everybody took out their bone saw as soon as Trump got
Hmm.
elected again, and they're like,
Right.
"Now's
They
the time."
had Elon Musk come down with his chainsaw and go chainsaw, chainsaw.
That's right. Right, and
High
just
as fuck.
like a Tony Montana type pile of ketamine up to about here.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
dump his face in there and sniff the crap out of that.
Say hello to my little wiener. So they
Right.
uh Trump though thinks that all this is going to self-correct. As soon as this is over, it's going to go bing bong zoom foosh up
Wait,
into the upper atmosphere.
yes, that's how it works. It always just
Yes.
fixes itself.
Yeah, it's a self-correcting mechanism, which by the way it does over time, but not until a lot of people lose their businesses, a lot of people lose their lives.
Lives.
Yeah.
I mean, right. I
Oh,
mean, a lot of things were fixed after World War II. it was a pretty bad way to get there.
Mhm.
Um, so it's not to say that things don't get corrected, but when you screw 'em up as badly as this idiot has, and you've wars and famines, and you've got the price of fertilizer going way up too, and so farmers, you've now just screwed yet again after you've
Mhm.
deported their workers and after you've tariffed them to hell. Now you're also making it so that they can't get access to what they need to grow food.
Right.
I mean, there's so many people get hurt in the meantime before his little self-correcting thing steps in.
Right.
So
And a lot, they seem to know that there are ways you can manipulate the market while you're in there because unfortunately you have to take the president and the treasury secretary seriously when they say stuff because they have real impact. If they say something, it becomes so at least for a period of
right.
time. So the day
You don't have to
traders,
believe them, but you have to
right.
take it seriously because you're right, because it's gonna affect things even if it's crap.
Yeah. So here's the so Trump thinks this will be fixed in a minute, but and you bringing up the fertilizer aspect of it, which by the way, under Joe Biden during the last administration, they discovered a huge potash deposit in Michigan and started to work on getting the potash that we would need for our own farms from there instead of getting them from China, Russia, and the Middle East. And that it's like the shale oil revolution did to American oil production.
Right, but
This potash discovery will lead to that, just like the lithium that they found in the Salton Sea in California.
right.
Like it's a
Unless Trump figures out how he can personally monetize it, he doesn't
or
much
screw it
care.
up. Right, exactly. Well, so a billion barrels of supply loss is already all but guaranteed, more than double the emergency inventories that governments released not long after the conflict began in the end of February. So everybody released about 500 million barrels. They were, we did, some OPEC countries just to tap the price down to keep it manageable because if it jacked up past a certain point, the futures traders, it would trigger a bunch of auto trading that if it hits 120, the assumption is it's going to hit 150, it's going to hit 200. So everybody starts trading the futures and it blows it out, and everybody else's businesses start to shut down. It becomes like because so much of it is automated now.
Yeah,
So buffers are now being used up fast, keeping a lid on oil prices. But with the closure now in its ninth week, demand destruction that started in less obvious sectors like petrochemicals in Asia is quietly spreading every day. And this is the thing: demand destruction. We saw a slow walked version of this over the last couple of decades, and it's certainly with Iraq and Afghanistan and no wars for oil and stuff, and that movement not spreading not just from coming from Democrats, but eventually to right leaning independents and maybe even
yeah,
some conservatives. Like we got to get off oil so that we don't have to rely. We need to pump. They were like, we got to pump everything we use here, but ultimately they were also saying we need to get off Middle Eastern oil. Well, we make
right,
I
right.
point this out. We make
National
13.5 million
security
barrels a day
implications.
and we
Yeah,
use 20. So you're going to make up that gap someplace. You're not going to make it up with drill baby drill. You can't do it. It's not going to
no.
happen. So you've got to lower demand. Well, how do you do that? Stop people from driving? No, you want more hybrids out there. You want electric
Alternative
and
energy, this crazy
right,
concept.
right. It's it for national security reasons. So demand destruction was created by that thought, but it was slow rolling. It was drifting in. Now this is a big reminder of how that shit started. Almost as big, I would say, as during Carter, that if the possibility of an electric car had been around in 1979, that would have been the biggest leap forward in that
My guess
technology.
is it probably was, and we
Right.
just I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I never saw that, what was it, that documentary, how they killed the electric car or whatever it was called, but I don't remember, so I don't know the dates that
Okay.
was a
Yeah. I.
possibility, but
It's
let's
a
just
great.
say
It's a great
well
documentary.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What killed the electric car initially was they thought they had to appeal to a hippie audience to sell it. And so the car looked, it's like, why do smart cars look so stupid? Was my joke when they first came out. Like,
Yeah.
the same issue was with the original electric car. The reason
Okay.
Elon Musk bought into Tesla was because they had a smart idea, which was use it to make it look like a Lotus. They were using Lotus speedster bodies because they were
Right.
lightweight and designed for speed, but that also made them particularly great for an electric engine. It didn't take a draw on that, so you could put more weight in the batteries at the time, which you needed a lot of, and you're going to need less and less of. But that's why they were one of the successful ones, why there were more Teslas on the road. It's because the two designers that created it said, hey, let's do it this way. And by the way, Elon
They
Musk
made
came
an
in and they
attractive
started making
car.
sedans and a,
I was
and
gonna
a
say they made an attractive car, but then they let Elon, take over, and they
right,
accepted his ideas. And he's like, "Hey, why don't we get something that get a let's call it a cyber truck, and let's have it look like two toasters humped."
right,
And
and
that
have
was,
it hot
their
glued
design.
together so parts of it start flying off because they're flat
Right.
panels that catch the wind. Yeah, all
I
the
mean, that is just
dumb
the
in
ugliest.
one place.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there, I will admit that there is a part of me as a comedian and as someone who was on I Love the 80s and who played upright video games that I was like, if this was built by someone who wasn't an absolute dickhead who did a Roman salute someplace or talked Donald Trump into thinking he had good genes, I would have bought it just because I'm a standout kind of a guy. I don't mind that idea. And it's electric. The one thing we forget about the Cybertruck, as
Yeah.
stupid as it fucking is the irony is it's the only thing that could get maggots to drive an electric vehicle. There are electric F-150s that can pull a fucking train. And these guys love F-150s, but they're
Yeah.
not buying that. They're fanboying Elon Musk. So I got to tell
No, of
you,
course
if they got to be hypnotized by this dickhead into driving an
they do.
electric car,
Yeah.
I'm going to call it a win on our side. Every
You're
time I
right.
see a Cybertruck, I'm like, motherfucker's
No,
driving
no,
an
you're right. I'm
100%
still gonna
electric
make fun
car.
of it for
Yes,
make fun of it just because I like to make fun of Elon Musk
agreed.
for any number of reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, the worst thing you can do with those guys is go roll down your window and go, thanks for fighting climate change. It's,
you totally you should do that.
I mean, that's the worst thing, insult they can get. But
Right.
so, and it's true. That's why it hurts. So, this is the part that it really stood out to me in this article, which is again about demand destruction. And demand destruction is when people have had enough of oil or pollution. It happened around the industrial age where we were like, okay, we need these factories and we need all these jobs, but if you don't put some sort of fucking, cigarette filter on the top of these fucking stovepipes, it won't matter how many jobs we have because all the children will be born with learning disabilities because we're downwind from this
Right.
shit. It won't matter.
Yeah.
And so there's destruction demand for those industrial jobs because they're taking more than they give. Look at Appalachia and what coal dust in the rivers has done to generations of people, right?
Yes.
So this is the thing. Demand destruction is happening in places that are not visible pricing centers, which is the naphtha, for example, what plastics are made of in the petroleum world. That's a
Yeah.
huge part of Southeast Asia and China. It's an
Yeah.
argument for why China needs more, like naphtha than they need oil most of the time because it's just as if not more crucial to the shit that they sell to the world. It's all
Right.
plastic, right? That adjustment is already happening, but if this continues, it has to get larger and larger. We're at a critical inflection point. Well, that's still happening today. It's going to happen till this afternoon. It's going to happen tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. There is no deal to be had. And so the
Right.
only thing that will, honest to God, the fastest end to this is boots on the ground regime change because of what they started. It's just the reality. It's a terrible, terrible. Like I've said from the beginning, like my concern isn't that this fails in the traditional sense; it's that it's successful. But it's required to make it successful will be terrible and have horrible
Yeah.
long term. And it'll be successful in the short term, like attacking Venezuela or Cuba, which he's definitely
But
planning on
boots on
doing.
the ground, I think you see. I think you start seeing violence over that. I mean, there are MAGA folks that now
Yes.
have turned on Trump, and they own lots of guns, and they're not going to send their kids there. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, it won't turn out good. Let's put
Oh,
it
I
that way.
agree. I agree. But it will be presented to them as we tried everything to make a deal with these guys. We gave them a 10-day, I gave them 3 days and then five
Right.
days and then 10 days. And they kept coming back to us that we're going to build a nuke. We've got a piece of paper right here that says we'll never give up our nuclear stuff. Never. We're not ever. It's sacred is whatever. That's what they push them into that corner, almost forcing their hand in that regard as an excuse to attack to go all the way and that you
Yeah.
cannot win this with half measures because you literally deliver an Iran that would control the Strait of Hormuz outright forever, or at least for the next decade, right? As a way of replenishing their stockpiles and making money. They would charge a toll to everybody who goes through there, mine the rest of the place. We'd have minesweepers in there for a decade trying to do cleanup as they keep dumping shit in. If we're not actually engaged in direct war with them, that's what'll happen. They'll put the mines in, we'll
Yeah.
take the mines out forever. They'll charge the world this. We'll do it as a service, so it's our tax dollars going to clean this thing up. They can bleed us
Maybe the
for.
guys who put the mines in can get the jobs taking them out too, and then they'll totally clean up.
Oh yeah, we'll hire contractors in the area that turn out to
That's
be
what we should
Iranian
definitely do.
proxies.
We should
Motherfucker,
get
you're absolutely
contractors,
right.
definitely.
Yeah. So this is and everybody is describing where we are as a stalemate right now, because that's exactly what it is. Now with a stalemate between Trump and his Iranian adversaries dragging on, which
Pretty
by the
much,
way,
yep.
I don't know that is who are they even talking to? They're still talking to the political arm when the IRGC is clearly taken over. Yahidi is clearly running the country. It is a military
The problem
dictatorship
with
now.
killing, like, every leader is you run out of leaders to negotiate with. It's sort of a
Yes.
problem that you maybe wanna think about ahead of time before you try to kill them all. Just a
Um,
thought.
I don't know if you saw this over the weekend, but let's see if I can put it up. Let's see if I can find it. They did a memorial picture. The Iranians did, of the people who have died, who've been martyred, the IRGC
Been
leaders
martyred,
and
yeah.
stuff, and with the Ayatollah dead center in it, the first one. They put a picture of his son on there as well. And they unveiled the picture, and everybody was like ready to cheer for their martyrs or whatever. And then they saw that that the new guy is dead too. Like they put,
Yeah.
and everybody went, "Oh!" You can hear the crowd go, "Oh shit!" Like, wait, he's dead too. Who the fuck is in charge of the religion
Right,
now?
right. That's the
And
thing.
right, and
It's
and
chaos. It's you're not you've disrupted sort of whatever chain of authority they had, and so who the hell you could be negotiating with anybody. That
mhm.
doesn't mean that they have the power to do it,
Yeah.
and
See if
that
I can.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
So
it's what Trump does. It's a complete mess.
right here, I'll show you the picture that they unveiled this martyrs memorial. And they've got Qasem Soleimani right down here.
Yep,
Yeah, he was going. And
yep.
then the
Remember
the
that guy?
the the main Ayatollah, the original Khomeini, the original dude. These are all people who've been whatever. And then
Yep.
it's a big ring of guys from the IRGC. All these little pictures are all
Yeah.
IRGC commanders and stuff like that. And that right there, that guy right there, is his son. That's the guy who supposedly was mangled, lost his leg, and is running things, from behind the scenes. Who, by the way, the expats from there pejoratively call the Gayatollah, because he's well known to have a fetish for boys and whatnot, and which I
Well,
would
he's
say
now
is
well known to be dead, so I guess not
right.
really anymore.
So, like, that's pretty big fucking news. And they unveiled
Yeah.
this thing. They literally like pulled down a big curtain, and everybody was like, "Hey ho, shit!" Like, yeah, this
Anybody
is
know where
the
the third in charge is?
yeah. So, Mojtaba Khamenei, is they're like, he's fine, he's dead, he's on the martyrs wall.
Yeah, you don't make that wall unless you've checked out.
Yeah. So that alone like created this like staggering response from, but at the same time, like, it didn't really make news over here quite yet. It was just like, well, that's curious. Um
I think here again, it's like the media, our corporate media has moved on to something else anyhow. They're
right.
bored. They need something new. Hey, look at the shooting at and they'll
Yeah.
now cover that to the point of where we
Right.
all just are like, please
The
shut up. And
shooting with
then
the guy who never had an opportunity to get anywhere near Trump
right.
and would have ended up dead or arrested no matter what. There was just no
Yep.
way. This, as bad as they complain about the security of him being able to assemble it, that they didn't shut up the upstairs, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't like he got to a balcony like fucking John Malkovich in The Line of Fire, which, by the way, he borrows the plot from almost entirely. Guy stayed at the hotel under an assumed name, found an area where he could
Did he
assemble
make
his
his own,
gun.
like,
He
plastic
didn't make
gun
his
and
soap
it's
gun.
cool?
Yeah, he didn't make his. And by the
'Cause
way,
that gun was pretty cool.
yeah, but you can only
He had,
fire it
like, also
twice.
the fake, face
Mask,
and all of
yeah,
that, and I
which
like that
nobody
movie.
would
Good movie.
spot. I do too, absolutely. Um, yeah, you will pay attention to me, right? Whatever, like that's where Malkovich entered his yelling phase. Along, like
That's right, when he starts yelling at him.
I've got to start
He's
out yelling
"I've never
Pacino,
lied to you, Frank. I've never lied to you."
and I have
know?
never not articulated every word I am saying to you, fuckface. Right? That's the,
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty
yeah.
that was good. That was well done.
That's not bad. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely build a character on that at some point, but it'll probably be me playing an actor in a movie. You know what I mean, like a
Yeah,
meta
but that's
type.
fine.
Yeah, yeah. So, there we could talk about so much more. I'm gonna let you go because you need to go get some rest. I will take it from here in the second hour, but I want to remind everybody, Blue Amp, you're transferring to. Have you moved the YouTube channel to that now, or is it still
Uh,
under Cliffs underscore Edge
it's still
currently?
under Cliffs underscore Edge. There's a
Okay.
lot of stuff. We're busy and
It's a
travel
lot.
and
Yeah,
freaking
you got a
but,
thing.
right, Cliffs underscore Edge, you can find please subscribe on YouTube and then blueamp.co, and that's over at, the Substack machine.
Right.
Subscribe there, and, we'll all be friends. It'll
Yeah,
be good.
please do. And I thank you for coming in, even though I know you're under it a little bit. So I
Well,
greatly
I
appreciate it. You are,
appreciate you inviting me on, and it's always good to join you, so
yes, absolutely. Well, we'll do this, and this summer, a couple of times, I will be, God willing, in the and hell don't rise, that I will be in the Cincinnati, general Northern Kentucky area for
alright.
little stretches. So like about a week each time. So we're gonna have to definitely, throw our shows
Oh,
together,
yeah,
do an
yeah, that's right. We'll sort of combine them into
yes,
one big crazy show.
because I'm not against. Hear me out. Bringing my little road rig over to your
Ooh,
thing, setting it up, and you and I can, because we talk enough for an entire show each of us. But doubling down on going through these clips as they come out, like I do live without any prep, and responding to the lies, misinformation, and just downright hilarious parts of them. We'll do that together at least
that could be a
once.
lot of fun, actually.
It is. It's a good time, and usually I'm doing it alone, so it'd be nice to do it with a
I'm
fellow
happy to
traveler.
join you, Hal, and keep you
Absolutely.
company, and also hopefully, add something to that experience for the
Hmm.
viewer.
I yes, I have no doubt you would. So thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Go get some rest,
Seriously.
and we'll talk soon.
All right, thanks a lot, man.
All
Take
right.
care.
Cheers. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen.
Bye.
Cliff Schechter, who, by the way, I gotta say, he always says a lot of great stuff, but the Ponzi scheme remark, just the distraction Ponzi scheme, chef's kiss. That was that you. Some people hope maybe 1 out of 5 shows you come up with something that really nails it like that. Cliff, every single time we have him on. I'm just saying, I think it shows taste and breeding on my part that I have him on in the first place. I'm just saying, I'm going to take some credit at least for being the delivery method for that. Um, Obviously, the big story right now is tourist dies after snake charmer's cobra slithers inside his pants. No, I'm not going to tell you anymore. You just got to you just got to live with that image in your head. You're not going to learn any more from it. It's not going to change your behavior. If there is a snake charmer, you're probably going to go see him. The only difference would you'd probably sit in the third row. For the record. Yeah. Um yeah, that's it. That's all I'm giving you of that whole story. Now, obviously this afternoon I will be covering the Trump extended 60 minutes interview, the I guess 40-minute version, or at least the chunks they put together. And we will handle that. But in the meantime, I think the biggest let's see, there you go. The biggest thing you're going to see from Maggotdom over, and it's almost again a coordinated impact, that they're trying to make is this. Well, I'll show you. You'll see what I mean. This is peanut butter dickhead. I'm not going to go through the clip right now because there's nothing to be gained from it. They are trying to kill Trump. They, and unless you mean, I suppose, unless you mean Secret Service by not doing your job, I guess, if that's their assumption. That's the only way, other way they could go. But there's no they. There's just no they. Like the individuals trying to do this and Trump, drawing them to himself through his own violent rhetoric has normalized this kind of stuff. There's no they. There's no even alignment between the shooters that have gone after him, except for the last two were specific ones, the Butler and the Mar-a-Lago, West Palm Beach course one. Both of those guys were disgruntled maggots, people who'd been for him before they were against him, right? They turned on him, right? That was a loud noise. Hold on 1 second. You okay? Hello? You okay? Oh, gotcha. Okay. I'm just making sure you're okay. All right. Sorry, there was a big slamming noise. And I was just making sure that Summer didn't need my help because that's the kind of guy I am. Obviously, lots of news to cover. We started this show talking to Cliff about this, but let me be abundantly clear. On Friday, chat room, um, pitch in if you saw my show on Friday and I brought up the point that which by the way, I did more talking on last Friday than I have done in one day in my frigging life. I literally had morning show, lunch with a dear friend that I've never had a chance to sit down and have lunch with. I literally have people like that in my life that I've either worked with or been around during work, but we've never had a moment away from that. And Brian, thanks for meeting me for lunch. We had a great lunch, and then I ran and did the afternoon show, and then I met up with some of the sparklers for dinner. Carl and Ginger and Joyce and Charlene, the opener, met with us as well. And George Wallace did a guest set on my show, so I was chatting with him before the show, and then I did my show. So I was like talking nonstop from probably 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. But I did my Friday afternoon show, which I sometimes don't do when I'm doing stand up, but I was like, fuck it, I miss you guys, and I've had to cut off other shows. So, anyways, so the thing I brought up was everybody was like, oh my God, it's over. He's done it. They agreed to all 10 points. The market responded as if it was true. And I got to tell you, I was incredulous that people were buying this shit. Yeah, thank you. Yes, Carl, I had a great time as well. It was a blessing to be with you. That and I hope I didn't bogart the entire goddamn conversation because I was very chit chatty. I get that way right before a show because my brain starts to wind up for showtime. You're like, when do you not have a show, Hal? Exactly. So the point I was trying to make was everybody was acting like this could be real. What he's saying could be true. It, and I was stunned. I was like, there is no way any of this is true. This is hi. Aw. Look at this wonder kid. Did he try to follow you out into the garage? Look at this buddy.
He tried to attack me on the.
He's trying to chase you on the stairs. Buck is a buddy. Buck is a buddy. Everybody, remember Bucky? Bucky, everybody. Hi, buddy. How are you? Huh? He's a big boy now. He's a panther. He's a panther. Wakanda forever. Yeah. Bucky's a buddy. Hi. Hi. Are you okay? He's very sleepy during the day because he's got to be awake at night to run around like a maniac. And that takes a lot of energy. So he's got to nap all day long so he can be a troop of Shetland ponies upstairs running across the floor. That's right. You recognize that sound? That's the noise that you make. It is. Yeah. Do you want to? Okay. Oh no, he's just hanging. He's just stretching out. He just wants to get comfortable. He will hang here, like you can carry him around, and he will just stay. Look at this. He's just draping his. He is a tree panther at heart. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, he does not. He doesn't want to sit with you, but if you're willing to walk around, like this, he'll he's not a lap cat. He's a, I don't know, a rib cat. I don't know what you're just, I don't know. Yeah. He I think he wants to he's like, I came down here for a purpose and it involves my backside. So would you please put me down? No? Okay. Um that was good. We needed a Bucky moment, I think. He's very chill. He's a lovely cat. He's great. And I was right to keep him. Just saying. He's our probably our final foster fail, and I know everybody says that, but it's true. So, call it kitty parkour, right? No, I'm sorry, Nikki. Hopefully, this little guy. We got him when he was a baby, so hopefully he'll be around for a good long while. I love that cat. He's great. And he'll grow into being a lap cat. I think he just needs to. He's just very active as a youngin. Yeah. So, anyways, what I was saying about Friday before I was so wonderfully interrupted by a feline friend, is that I was just saying I called bullshit on it immediately. I was like, this is nonsense. This is even beyond like it. It was so absurd. They've agreed to everything. All 10 points. They're never going to have nukes again. We open the strait. It's open forever and free for business forever. That's it. They've agreed to all of it. It was so over the top that it was like an April Fool's joke on April 2nd. It was so lame. It was so over the top that it wasn't like you had no excuse for believing it, was my reaction. Does that make sense? I was like, this is painfully absurd. And I keep seeing, I think it triggered kind of like this odd hopefulness in the next couple days, like, well, that was complete bullshit, but maybe there was a grain of truth in it, so maybe we should be on breakthrough watch on these talks, which never happened. And then Trump cancels the entire meeting because it's too long a flight to be led along. Like, dude, the seriousness of this, here's my question: what the fuck did we need JD Vance in our country for? Like, if he's part of the talks, if Jared and Witkoff are too busy turning Gaza into Atlantic City for Trump and Bibi Netanyahu, nice job, non-voters, and people who secretly voted for Trump because he would be better for the Palestinians. Good job, good job. You didn't just play yourself; you played the Palestinians. Yeah, you fucked up their existence forever. Any chance of normalcy gone forever. Yeah. So, Hal, that's vote shaming. You're goddamn right. It is. Some people should be ashamed, and maybe that shame will affect their behavior in the future. The power of regret, ladies and gentlemen. And same, with Trump and the any progressives calling Russiagate or saying Russia, Russia, Russia. Get out of here. So, how about shaming politicians? Yeah, you can do that by voting. Yeah. Doesn't matter. They get put there. Voters have primacy. We're first in line. Yeah. Trump tacos. Well, that's the other thing too, is that some of these tacos are either his active manipulation of the market or the people around him knowing full well that if they give him enough bad news about something, he will stop or pull back, and they can manipulate the market by manipulating him in a way that, like, how do I know what he was going to do? I just gave him the information that previously has made him change his mind, right? That's or driven him not to. I believe so, Nikki. Yes, I do. Which one are we talking about? Beg your pardon. But yes, I may have already worn it. I think. I think I did. Anyways, so let me show you something that I find ridiculous. Okay, first of all, this is Axios, and understand Axios just had an article called "Trump's 24-hour truce with the media," which, again, kiss my ass. He didn't have a truce with them. He didn't even make it through the 60-minute article without calling her a terrible person for reading from the guy's manifesto and telling him what the guy said, his reasoning, and even asking, did you feel like you were a target? He said, no, I don't know if I read the manifesto, but I'm not sure I was a target. Like, motherfucker, of course you were the target. What are you talking about? He never would have gotten to you. He never would have been able to kill the president with that plan, period. Wasn't going to work. It was doomed from the start. Before the train left the station, this dude was never going to get close enough to kill Trump or even wound him. This is just stupid. Like, and again, just because you have a master's degree in computer engineering does not make you a master tactician or strategist. You're going to shit on the he even shit on the Secret Service. Like, I can't believe the Secret Service are so terrible at this. They didn't even check blah blah blah. And then ultimately he had to bum rush the magnetometers to get in there. Like, that would work. It's just ridiculous. So again, I mean, he's a would-be political assassin, not the brightest bulbs most of the time. It's, it takes some major fuck ups on multiple levels, especially now, to do that. Back in the day when the president used to walk, unattended at the World's Fair, it might have been easier. But anyways, so this is the kind of article that we're seeing all over the place, today and certainly yesterday. Iran offers U.S. deal to reopen Strait but postpone nuclear talks. First of all, no, they didn't. This is, they literally can't offer nukes at all because Yehidi will not allow them. The hardliners in the IRGC are not going to, it's not a debatable point. The only reason they would want to reopen the strait is so that the blockade ends and they could still charge a toll through the boats that go through there and sell their own oil. And so there's just, until this all starts up again, it's just dumb. There is no, this is not a thing. This is not going to be a thing. It's not anywhere near being a thing. And most of these fuckers that Witkoff and Jared would be talking to can't even enforce this any more than Jared and Witkoff can present Trump with a complicated, series of talking points. Like, we'll give him this, we're not going to give him this, a real deal. Trump's not going to acquiesce to that because either Lindsey Graham or somebody else is going to go, that's not enough, Mr. President, and he's just going to go back in, or he's going to decide about military action in Iran based on how much cover he needs with the MAGA base, or to distance himself from this to protect his cover in the MAGA base so that they still like him during the midterms, even if they vote out the Republicans. Because let me say, the other thing about this is Trump does not give a shit about the Republican Party. He's, in his mind, he's politically a lame duck anyways. And his job of signing parts of Project 2025 are all but done. And if anything, he more than likely, he could be holding back some of the things that they want, dragging his feet on some of them, because he's got to be aware at some point that as soon as he signs the last one that's like, okay, these are our must-haves on our list of 20 things you've got to do because we helped you get elected, if not strategically put you in there. Once he gets to the, number 20 on that list, they don't need him at all anymore. And then it's Epstein files all the way, and they just start getting to distance themselves. We had no idea. And we got all the tax cuts we wanted. We got all the regulation cuts we wanted so we could pollute the rivers and streams again and all that kind of shit. He did all that shit for it, but we had no idea he was involved. Oh, how terrible. Back to compassionate conservative, and we'll run somebody who's the equivalent of a George W. Bush again and try to rally the troops around that. Why was the shooter naked? I think he got, they stripped his shirt off, or he had a jumpsuit on or something, and they were checking him for other weapons. They were taking knives and stuff out, and he had guns, and he probably had something on the inside, so they just took off his jacket while they were doing that. That would be my guess. Or he was just actually not armed, and he was just streaking, and that wasn't a shotgun. I'm kidding. All right, so, okay. Iran gave the U.S. a new proposal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and end the war. Wow, that sounds awesome. Phew. With nuclear negotiations postponed for a later stage, according to a U.S. official and 2 sources with knowledge. If that's the whole reason for it, and if all Trump is saying they just can't have a nuclear weapon, they can't have a nuclear, it's all about that, it's very simple. This is the postponing talk of nuclear stuff till later is obviously a non-starter. It's meant to be embarrassing. Right? It's shaming Trump into a corner. Also, who the fuck says they really said it and not members of his own cabinet? Okay. Diplomacy is at a stalemate. We're hearing stalemate all over the time, all over. But meanwhile, the headlines are like "Chance for Peace." I saw an MSNBC or MS Now headline, yesterday morning on Alex DeWitt's show, I think it was, where she was. It said like, possibility of peace or whatever question mark. I'm like, no, just no. I saw it. And, like the answer is no. The question mark. I'll answer it for you. No. This isn't peace or whatever. Like you can have a stalemate, or it's more like, again, like a Mexican standoff in theory. But okay, so the diplomacy is in a stalemate, and the Iranian leadership is divided about what nuclear concessions should be on the table. No, they are not. The ones that might agree that nuclear concession should be on the table are either dead, actively sidelined, or being told they will be killed if they even discuss it. That's why they left. The Iranian proposal would bypass the issue en route to a faster deal. There is no faster deal. That's just, this is horseshit. It's nonsense. All of it, period. Stop it. Stop pretending this is real. Like this is it's more, sober language, but it's the same bullshit from Friday. But lifting the blockade and ending the war would remove Trump's leverage in any future talks to remove Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium and convince Tehran to suspend enrichment, 2 primary war objectives for Trump. Exactly. The whole point is, let's make an arrangement for us to go in and secure those sites, either on the ground or from the air with IAEA and a bunch of other countries. And, we'll just surround them and, we'll build 3 military bases in your country on top of those places. That's what he's talking about. You remember how I was going to get us out of Afghanistan, but I was going to do it with honor and peace and strength and fortitude and not needed Viagra at all. Remember that business? But we're going to keep Bagram because it's an hour away from where China makes their nuclear weapons. And by the way, if the nuclear weapons become an issue, the factory is not as important as being close to the silos or the launch. What fucking difference? If you're launching nukes, you're probably expecting never to make any more ever again. You know what I mean? If it's reached that level where you're like, no, if we're, you're not hitting the factories at the end of war games after everything is gone, right? After the launch has happened, after an open geothermal nuclear war has occurred. Like, wow, we better make sure they can't build those again. Dude, the people are going to be banging rocks together for 1,000 years after shit like that. They're not going to be making new nukes. So, all right. Same thing here. Like, but he wanted us to stay in. You can't leave Afghanistan and keep your base there and live there forever. You can't have it forever because it's close to where China makes their nukes. Like it's stupid anyways, but it certainly is not an exit plan. It means you're staying. Yes? Okay. Same thing here. Not only are we going to have boots in the ground, but more than likely this is going to end up with the United States having a green zone like fortress built near each of these 3 nuclear sites to make sure that going forward, we get to take that stuff out because we're near the site. It'll be a temporary base and then, a permanent one. that there'll be fights about walking back the funding for it and getting us out of there. But yet our friend is now in charge of Iran. And if we leave, the old IRGC guys who formed their own version of Al Qaeda now might kill that leader. And so we really got to stick around to protect you. See how this shit works? I'm fine. But I pointed this out on Friday, and it's amazing to me that anybody is still playing footsie with this nonsense. Trump is expected to hold a situation room meeting on Iran on Monday with his top national security and foreign policy team, according to 3 U.S. officials. Boy, I bet that'll be talk about a meetings of the mind. One source said Trump's team would discuss the stalemate in the negotiations and potential next steps. You think? Maybe what discussion can be had? I guess we're not getting anywhere. Yeah, I guess not. What do you do now? I don't know. Bomb them or keep bullshitting. It's tough because half of maggots think bomb them and the other half want me to keep bullshitting. Can I bullshit and bomb at the same time? Mr. President, you are a genius. Trump signaled in an interview with Fox News on Sunday that he wants to continue the naval blockade, which is choking off Iran's oil exports and also everybody else's, hoping it will get Tehran to cave over the next few weeks. What do we hear about the oil wells in Iran? They were going to last till tomorrow. That if they don't start moving stuff out by tomorrow, they're going to have to set fire to them to burn the oil off, or they're going to have to, cap them so that they got to remove all the gear, all that kind of stuff. If they even have the people to do it, which more than likely people think it's going to, they're going to set fire to them. So welcome to hey, guess what? Non-voters and secret MAGA voters, congratulations. You get to tack this on top of it. Not only get us out of the Paris Accord, but he's probably going to kick off the biggest environmental disaster since Exxon Valdez in terms of oil. Yeah, 2 weeks. Everything's 2 weeks. It's always fucking 2 weeks. By the way, hit the like, share the show. It's House Sparks Mega Worldwide. It's the morning show. It's House Sparks Mondays Mega Worldwide. There's the Venmo if you want to support the show and stuff. Okay, so bless you and thank you. And if you see the clips or you don't get to watch the show regularly, like you only catch some of the streams, check out the videos online, watch those, and leave a comment and all the stuff that I never tell you guys to do, but clearly helps. Are bullshit bombs green? Yes. Any bomb that isn't dropped is a green bomb, I think. Credit where credit is due. The next few weeks, 2 weeks, when you have vast amounts of oil pouring through your system, if for any reason this line is closed because you can't put it into containers or ships, what happens is the line explodes from within. They say they only have about 3 days before that happens. So what do you mean cave over the next few weeks? If they only got 3 days before the wells explode and they've got no industry and no oil output and that's gone forever. And by the way, if you don't think that's going to impact oil prices for the foreseeable future, which honestly the oil companies that we're friendly with and our own, for Russian and Iranian oil to be completely taken out of the equation, no shadow fleet, no actual extraction happening at all, guarantees them higher prices in a decreasing market. I'm going to float something by you. Chat, come here for a second. Come here. Let's just say, let's play in this a little bit. Let me explain something if I could. See if my math and reasoning checks out. Let's say you are in the oil and gas industry. You have oil and extraction refineries in your own country, which you love dearly, and you love to hear Lee Greenwood's song play in its entirety at the beginning of your favorite president's latest ramble. But also, you have rigs and oil that you're pulling out of maybe not quite enemy states, but stuff that teeters on the brink, or you've lost some in Venezuela and that kind of thing. But for all that work, all that hard work over these years of extracting all this oil and trying to sell it on the market because it's a necessary commodity, you look out maybe 10 years ago and everybody's like, hey guys, we hit peak oil about 3-4 years ago. The world, whether we like it or not, just the shift from commuter cars to hybrids and electrics is going to diminish demand of world oil supply by a third, while at the same time, the political pressure for the rest of us is that we keep pumping and we raise the amount that we put out. So we are setting ourselves up for a hard sunset. Okay? Sometime in the, with whether it's 10 years down the road or 15 years down the road, maybe sooner if it happens really fast, because people are buying electric cars like crazy. This whole Tesla thing is happening. We're the Biden administration, Obama, they were all talking about putting in charging stations everywhere. Biden actually did it. Trump tried to pull some of that back in his pissing contest with Elon Musk, but it didn't do it. Funding still went out because stuff had already broken ground. That was the whole point. That's why the Biden administration was like rushing that funding out the door at the last day, so that they could at least start breaking ground, so they could keep it, so that Trump could pull it back. But the demand for electric vehicles that have a 300 to 400 mile range that can recharge in about a half hour, 45 minutes, long enough for you to stop every 4 hours and have a meal, which is smart, or stretch your legs, is real, and it's going to infect, and it's going to take a third of oil demand off the top, which eventually, by the way, will crater out to a lot of other things. Because when big rigs go that way, or we find a way to have battery systems, or literally micronuclear thorium jets or some shit, and 20 years from now, oil's going to be over, and we got to start diversifying like the Saudis are doing with their Project 2030 and Project 2040. Get out of the oil business. Sell it as high as you can, because that day is coming faster than you think. And then you get together with a bunch of your buddies who all are seeing the exact same writing on the wall. And you're like, look, demand is going to crater by a third, and it's happening faster than we thought. And there's no way we're going to be able to transition from that to another economic system for ourselves and maintain our global dominance, control of our own people in the case of the Saudis or even the Iranians or the Russians, where as basically Russia being a gas station with nukes, there's a wall. Like, if we went from, oh shit, we're going to run out of gas, metaphorically, to we're now a crash test dummy, just headed towards this wall. At some point, we're fucked. It's going to drop off a cliff. Futures are going to point to oil should only be worth about $20 a barrel, and it takes 30 to get it out of the ground. We're going to need something else, right? That's happening. What do we do, guys? How do we maintain an oil price? How do we maintain our leverage as long as possible when we know we can't shift to renewables? We can't charge people for sunlight yet, I suppose. And we're not going to make that transition fast enough to maintain. I do not. My next car will be a completely electric one, but my car currently runs fine, so I am not going to buy a new car until that one dies, if that makes sense. My car has 206,000 miles on it. Point being, because literally currently what I would say, and I'm hoping we get to solid state batteries instead of lithium before I do the big purchase. And I think a lot of people are waiting for that. Anyways, so the point I'm trying to make is that if you're the head of an oil company and you're, say, the kind of person that also is the head of a royal family, or the titular head of a royal family, who throws people into wood chippers and you don't really give a fuck, what's your other option? What is your other option to lower the price of oil? What is it? Well, or sorry, to raise the price of oil and keep your dominance and make sure it doesn't drop. What's your other choice? Well, you could, and see if this sounds about right. You could eliminate the source of about 25 to 30% of the oil output. You could force destruction onto the oil industry of an enemy country or a non-ally you don't give a shit about. You could make their system. Yes, I am, Kathy. You could make that system, uh, you know, be your curtailing of output. Like originally, they tried to ratchet the OPEC plus countries. The Saudis specifically in the UAE told everybody lower your output to keep the price up, intentionally throttle it. Right? They could only do that for so long, and a lot of those countries broke free of that early last year because they're like, we can't not sell what we have. Yes, I do drive a Toyota. Yeah, it's going to be around forever. I know, water goddess. So yeah, a non-allied country, meaning we don't give a shit about them. So either you're enemy like Iran, or Iran is helping Russia, but you're not in a direct adversarial thing, but they're not an ally. They're not a friend. One of the things you could do is support the wrecking of their oil industry, because if you can scrape 20% of that output off the table, suddenly the price of your in-demand fuel goes up again. Does that make sense? So that's why the Gulf states were the ones that, even though Bibi Netanyahu had been calling Trump and going, you got to help us. We got to do this. We got to do this. He was on the fence about it. He was getting mad at Bibi. He was talking shit about him even last fall in some tarmac interviews and on his way to the helicopter, right? But then all of a sudden, he decides to hit Iran not once, but twice, and really commit to it this time. And the last person to call him to give him the fucking go ahead was not Bibi Netanyahu. It was MBS. And I'm sure Trump's oil buddies who he golfs with in the United States feel the exact same way. But they've got to thread a needle. Okay, so that's the other thing. That's what this demand destruction part of it is. They've got to thread a needle. They got to keep the price high enough where they can profit off of it and make up for profit lost, right? In the interim, or when it was starting to go down, or just like in COVID. They got to make up for that window of money they lost. If they're going to drill, baby, drill, they got to make even more than they would, because drilling costs money, right? And so they got a window. They could probably negotiate somewhere between $70 and $85 a barrel during a heightened conflict or some shit going on that people would justify, because, well, the world's crazy and oil goes up, but this is this is something that we have to deal. It's just life, because where the oil comes from. This is the same window. They have a window between it's so low they can't make profit, and it gets so high that demand destruction kicks in, and people go, all right, fuck this. I'm getting an electric Hummer, right? I'm getting an electric F-150. This is stupid. That's the window that they're in the same way that any other product, curiously enough, if you have options, there was a period where oil was oil and that was that. There is no option. There wasn't ethanol. There wasn't, it was just leaded gasoline or else, right? Or a fucking horse. And so during that time, that doesn't matter. Oil costs, gas costs what it costs, period. Tough shit. And that's what the 70s were about. That's what happened to Carter. And Reagan actively manipulated that circumstance with his running mate, who was the head of the FBI, or sorry, head of the CIA, that Jimmy Carter fired. Yes, that's right. Jimmy Carter fired George Herbert Walker Bush from being the head of the CIA because of all the fuckery he'd been engaged in, put rules on him, put inspector generals in the government, right? Did a lot of good stuff. Why do you think the Republicans shit on him forever? It's because he was an actually a moral man and a good leader. And they had to literally make deals with the Iranians behind his back to get him out of office. All right. So, but at that point, Carter was screwed by history. There was no other option. Right? Now there is. Now there's a genuine option. Hybrids and electric cars. Charging stations in your home, battery stations in your home. And granted, it hasn't trickled down to where it's totally cheap, but like my girlfriend's son, his first car was a 100% electric. It had a shit range, but he just needed it to go to college and back. Right? And it was not far. It worked. That's a reality. And now these cars go 300, 400 miles, which is plenty for most people, especially if you're driving across country and taking a trip. Like, you kind of should stop. I mean, I guess it would be bad if you're like that astronaut lady who wore a diaper and drove across country overnight to murder somebody and drove all the way back. But in general, the best way, the only way perhaps, that oil companies and oil producing countries can see profitability in a declining demand is to eliminate a huge chunk of the output. So the freezing of these oil wells, the collapse of the Iranian oil economy, could be a price protection plot by the Gulf states. Yeah. So that I would argue that that is why the Gulf states are either so quiet or directly supportive of this. Because we were getting close to the, you know, the amount where the Strait of Hormuz control of that would create another situation where demand destruction would kick in, and I would argue that ship has sailed. That it's just a matter of time. And once you get solid state batteries in most things, no longer lithium ion, but solid state batteries, which are on their way, probably in the next 2 years, you'll see a big flood of those onto the market. They last longer, charge faster. They don't catch fire like the lithium ion ones. That's that. And it used to be 10 years down the road, and now it's 3. And so if you can't make the transition, you burn stock. Just burn the stock. That's it. That's what we're doing. All, the other reasonings, Iran walked into this rake with its attachment to nuclear weapons. And I guess we knew we could manipulate them in this because any dictatorship, and we'll look at, that's what's happening to Trump with a bunch of other countries dunking on us right now, because it's easy to walk a dictator into this because their ego is more important to them than the actual strategy. Kuwait, try our new gas, yeah. So this is okay. Here's the rest of that part. Behind the scenes, Araghchi raised the plan to bypass the nuclear issue during his meeting in Islamabad, 2 sources say. One source with Araghchi made it clear that the Pakistani, Egyptian, Turkish, and Qatari mediators over the weekend that there's no consensus inside the Iranian leadership about how to address the U.S. demands, because both of them are non-starters. There is no art of the deal in any of this shit. Trump is trying to strong arm these assholes, and these guys strong arm for a living. So it's a game of chicken. And ultimately, Trump knows, I think, or believes, because he's been told this. I don't think he has a deep awareness of any of this shit. I think he knows that we can beat them if we want. It'll just be ugly and expensive and whatever. But if he can convince people it's necessary with the help of whatever these negotiators are saying, by throwing it back in their face or saying they agreed to it. Oh, they totally went back on their word. These people aren't trustworthy. We have to bomb them. That's where we are right now. Also, there's bombing going on in Iran right now. There were huge explosions in Tehran over the weekend. The U.S. wants Iran to suspend uranium enrichment for at least a decade. And this is the part, like, the what? Trump said forever, and that's that. I don't know where at least a decade, and remove its enriched uranium from the country. At least a decade is basically the original Obama deal. Like, they could have re-upped it. And by the way, he can't do this. Trump can't sign off on anything but a forever deal, because that was his primary criticism of the JCPOA. You think MAGAs are going to be like, he started a whole new war and then he backed out, and his concession is to redo the Obama deal? You think they're going to buy that? I mean, none of us do, obviously. The new proposal given to the U.S. via the Pakistani mediators focused on solving the crisis over the Strait and the U.S. blockade first, which you can't do. As part of that, the ceasefire would be extended for a long period, or the parties would agree on a permanent end to the war. According to the proposal, the nuclear negotiations would start at a later stage after the strait was open and the blockade lifted, where, by the way, they could start making money again and use that to fund, and buy re-upping their ammunition and all this. It's just like, that's how it's being read in the Pentagon. This is dumb. White House has received the proposal, but it's unclear whether the U.S. is willing to explore it. No, it isn't. It's completely clear. Even if they gave lip service to it, it's bullshit. It is bullshit. It shall be bullshit, and it will continue to be bullshit as long as bullshit is a thing. Hold on one second. I need to try to. I gotta move this over here because I kind of need.
This is some bullshit. We see through it.
That was just bullshit, Joel.
This is some bullshit.
Bullshit! Bullshit!
Can't undo it.
That was just bullshit, Joel.
All of it.
Say it loud.
I mean, can we just not? Can we just not? Do we have to pretend that this is a real thing, or that like, we literally found out over the weekend that the second in line spiritual leader of the Shia movement in Iran, who would normally be calling the shots and be the one saying to the IRGC, "Hey, listen to our political people. I've decided," is dead. He's dead. They posted him on the martyrs wall. He's dead. Joey, the song was in your head this morning. It has a tendency to do that. It comes up in my head a lot while I'm doing this. Okay. So, what they're saying, which again means, that and a wooden nickel get you kicked out of a saloon. These are sensitive diplomatic discussions, and the U.S. will not negotiate through the press. As the president has said, As the president has said, the United States holds the cards and will only make a deal that puts the American people first, never allowing Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Yeah, okay. This is, again, if Baghdad Bob was the spokesperson for negotiations, this is what it sounds like. Everything's going swimmingly and we're playing tough and yada, yada, yada. So, wow, I got near the end of the show, even with that part of it. This annoyed me as well. Axios's Trump's 24-hour truce with the media. No, there was no truce. He went straight back to calling them the enemy and bitching at Nora. We'll look at that whole interview this afternoon all the way through. The other part of it was, yeah. Well, I'll save that for later. This is the part that I think is particularly curious. Trump and his whole, why don't we keep the ships? Why don't we, instead of sinking stuff, why don't we, just take everything? We do it with drug. I mean, I think he and his buddies are looking at, when we seize drug boats. I think they're also using this as a way to convince him to not blow up fishing boats off the coast of Venezuela anymore. Is that there are a bunch of people in the White House that are perfectly fine with fentanyl and other drugs making its way to Haiti and the Dominican Republic, hoping that it eventually kills everybody there, along with the gang violence, so it can be, I guess, recolonized by the French or the Spanish. But this idea is that, if you're a busted drug dealer, they sell your car at auction, right? And the government can patch holes. The local city budget often makes up some of that money by auctioning off stuff that was captured in a drug raid, right? Well, Trump is kind of doing a similar thing here. He's trying to patch his enormous budget deficit by seizing stuff. That's why he's like, why don't we keep those ships? The idea is, that we would use fucking Iranian ships or need them is just embarrassing and stupid. But I think it's more likely that he would take them, we would fix them up or retrofit them, and then sell them to other countries that we owe boats to while they're waiting. paint the oil ship gold with glitter. He'll probably fucking gold leaf it and make it sink. But these, two Iran-linked oil tankers that U.S. forces interdicted, you naughty person, near Sri Lanka last week are now sailing west. U.S. forces carried out maritime interdiction. Stop it. Stop laughing at that word. You know you nasty. And right of visit boarding, which is, wow, right up there with the Patriot Act. Right of visit. By the way, all the maritime fleets in the world signed off on that language and that idea. So it's not like it's uniquely American. Everybody gets that chance. It's just Trump's one of the few people that actually uses it. Of two oil super tankers, the Tiffany and the Phoenix, they just bump a word over. It's like when the Chinese they made their own Apple iPhone and they have a company called Apple. Yeah, I'm not kidding. You can get an Apple iPhone. And April 21st, don't, by the way, do not get one. It's basically a tracking device. The Pentagon said last week, without elaborating, that it would happen, what would happen next. The latter ship is also known as the Majestic X, as in above Majestic, as in Majestic 12, as in UFOs, as in their disclosure day. No, actually, just stupid people using Kardashian-like names. Both appear to be crossing the Indian Ocean westbound in quite close proximity to one another. Digital signatures from that they said. So they basically have been round up and told to drive. The U.S. has given no formal indication of what it intends to do with either. I hope they're up for auction. I would buy one and live on it. The good ship, the HMS Sparks, which was sort of redundant because my initials are HMS. That's true. Um, they're still signaling the same destinations in Asia as they were when the interdictions happened. You stop it with you nasty self and the interdictions. If they gonna say interdict, you should have stop it now. That's not. You can't just giggle every time they say that's a maritime word. Stop it. You be nice. Church was yesterday. Shame on you. The words. Cape Town, at the southern tip of Africa, you don't say, would be a standard waypoint for the ship sailing towards the U.S. Equally, they are heading in direction of the UK-controlled Chagos Archipelago, and there are American military base at Diego Garcia. Right, so this is the ship sailing direction. They're like, we're just fine. Everything is fine. We're doing just fine. Oops. Turn around and head back. Okay. Follow this course. We're going to run aground. Don't worry about it. Just beat it. That's hilarious. When the U.S. carried out a similar blockade in Venezuela, some of the Latin American country shipments were interdicted. You stop now, you nasty stuff. Quit it. Saying that nasty stuff. I think this guy is getting excited about that word. You want sparks on an oil tanker? You assume I would continue to use it as an oil tanker. Excuse me? Excuse me? I would not use it as an oil tanker. First of all, it would be the first undersea half pipe, right? Then you take it, like I'd empty it and then clean it up, and then everybody could just skate in it while it's sailing. You could be sail and skate. That'd be good. And then eventually we'd build it out. I'd buy parts of Spirit Airlines. We could just buy a shitty Spirit Airlines plane and just put it in the tank, and then it would have seats in it, and build little bridges from the wings out into that kind of thing. And then, right. Anyways, I didn't say again. Just because it's stupid doesn't mean it's not the plan. The U.S. cordon of Iran shipping began April 13th. Followed the closures in response. Yeah. Shipping signals can be manipulated, although that doesn't look to be the case. Right. I don't know why you'd even bother with that shit, but okay. That's the theory. So, anyways, straight up piracy, but for what? We don't know. If it goes up for auction, I'm still trying to get that Alex Jones desk. I'm having trouble because apparently to buy it, you have to have a tiny wiener. I don't know. It's written into the very first purchase agreement, and it's locked in or something. It's sad. Maybe I'll find a contractual reach around. I can fix it, but it'll be Hal's version of the what? Hold on, I'm waiting until this comes. Come on, chat room, talk. There you go. Of the bat boat. Yes, that's true. Yeah, it'd be well. I mean, as bat caves go, as one that's permanently at sea, not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Okay. Global, and here's the tricky part. Now, this is the part. Remember the theory I put. I'm going to let you guys go. It's the end of the show, but let me remember how there was somebody. I think somebody in there, probably a maggot, said, "How do you know about the oil stuff? How do you know?" Okay, reading helps. Also, being able to do math also helps. And having a rock solid bullshit detector also very good. Right? Those three things kind of necessary. But they say it. It's all right. Let me show you. Global oil demand is on track to slump the most in 5 years this month, according to the International Energy Agency, which coordinated the emergency measures by major economies to counteract the supply shock. Now, the oil demand slump started before the war. Now, there might be some evidence that China, with its stockpiles, building them up over the last year, might be the reason why they're not buying as much, because they literally they filled all their reserves, and Trump and his crowd might have been tipping off their buddies in these other countries, and those guys went, "Hey, boss, we might want to top off our reserves." Nutlick called me. I called in a favor from him because he knows I've got more of those Epstein emails that I might release, and he told me this. So that could be part of it. But the demand overall still going down. Yet another reason why you would want to take Iran's oil offline. Global oil demand is on track to slump the most in 5 years this month. Oil demand, not usage, demand. Trading group Gunver Group estimates the loss could double the next month to 5 million barrels a day, or 5% of world supplies, and along with major traders sees a growing risk of economic recession. Other analysts and traders say that the impact has already reached around the 4 million a day mark, where they want there's less oil being bought at $4 million a day, 4 million barrels a day. That toll is beginning to take shape. Germany has slashed economic growth forecasts in half, while the International Monetary Fund has trimmed global estimates, citing the war. In the most severe of three scenarios modeled by the European Central Bank, Brent prices peak at $145 a barrel and cut the region's growth in half. That's Europe. Cut Europe's growth in half. Brent crude closed at about $105 a barrel on Friday. It was 106, I think, this morning, but it's all over the map because Trump is, again, back to manipulating the markets. The futures is the thing to watch out for. We will check out a lot of this stuff this afternoon, but I got to say, strategically, this looks more like an attempt to scrape production off the top so that you could raise the price of oil and make more profit off what little is available. So I'm fairly certain I'm the only one pointing this out amongst all of your usual things that you watch. I've noticed a couple of the other folks have started picking up what I'm laying down, and if they'd like to have me as a guest on their show, they should just ask. Beastly. Anyways, and then of course, anytime Trump stops this shit or allows it to settle, what immediately people go back to is, hey, prices haven't come down. Hey, interest rates haven't come down. Hey, you're still spending a lot of money on beautification projects, and so the budget hasn't gone down. Hey, you're responsible for a quarter of our national debt as one president, a quarter of it. So yeah, at some point, he's out of runway in every direction. I'll see you this afternoon. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. See you this afternoon. House Parks Mega Worldwide, 3 o'clock Pacific time, or whenever you watch. If you're watching at another time, comment then. Thank you guys for the Venmo and the support and all that. Appreciate you so much.
Glows bright with a crooked smile. Words spill out. All venom, no style. Promises made, they rot in the air. A handshake, a lie, a blank, cold stare. Puppets dance, the strings are tight. Shadows whisper in the dead of night. This is some bullshit.